a little bit on yesterday's episode about the importance of taking teams like the Blue Jackets seriously and the importance, in particular, of the Penguins just being their best selves regardless of the opponent, regardless of the venue, regardless of anything. Well, I'm going to take a look at this Blue Jackets thing from a different perspective today that's probably even more important. Good morning to you. Good Tuesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Last night in the NHL, the Sabres beat the Capitals in a shootout, and the Canadiens beat the Avalanche in overtime. And no, I don't care about either of those scores either, but I probably should. And what I mean by that is, actually, there's no short way to do this. I'm actually going to read to you the wild card standings, meaning the two teams that are currently in the wild card position, and then the rest of the Eastern Conference. This is going to blow your mind here. Okay, the two teams that are in position are the Lightning and now the Canadiens. Canadiens! I mean, this team, when you've seen them at times, they look like a catastrophe. And they just eked through some technicality ahead of the Penguins for that second wildcard spot, this morning anyway. Lightning have 42 points. The Canadiens and Penguins have 41 points. The Senators and Blue Jackets have 40 points. The Flyers have 39. The Red Wings have 38. The Rangers and Islanders have 37. And even the Sabres, who lost 13 in a row not so long ago, have 35. So the gap between the Canadiens / Penguins and the Sabres, 6 points. I've not seen anything like this. Since the NHL went to the wild card format, I don't recall getting as far as halfway into a season and having an entire conference within 6 points of making the playoffs. That's wild. And you know what else it is? It's really indicative of how not good this conference is. Now, no one's going to want to hear that because everyone likes to think, well, it's just so super competitive and everything. No. This is what happens when mediocrity hits. This is what happens when nobody's really rising above. Now, I say that omitting on purpose the teams that actually have risen above in the conference. The Panthers are who they are. The Hurricanes are who they are. We just saw that in both cases. I happen to feel that the Lightning will get up there at some point as well. They've had results that really don't align with how well they've played. But everybody else, throw a hat over them, And for that matter, you tell me, when you watched the Penguins play just now in Sunrise and in Raleigh, did the Penguins look outclassed to you, or did they just lose each game by a goal? And even those in a shootout and overtime, did you get the sense that the Penguins just flat out don't belong? Now, look, I'm not making grand, stupid predictions here. I'm not saying that the Penguins are going to be winning some Stanley Cup or anything absurd like that. I'm saying that they don't look like they can't share the same ice. And I think that's going to be really good for this team for two reasons. One, as I mentioned yesterday, it really should keep their attention span exactly where it belongs. So when the Penguins and the Blue Jackets face off tonight at 7:08 p.m., what you should be seeing, and then in turn what you should be hearing from the athletes on both sides afterward, is the same sort of stuff you heard whenever the Flyers and the Islanders passed through, which is that's a divisional game. It's right there in the standings, how important it is. It's not us playing the Blue Jackets, and it's not us playing a team that we should crush or anything like that. The Penguins have been the better team of late, but the Blue Jackets are 1 point behind the Penguins overall. Good. That's the way you want this team thinking. Two, if I'm calling it like it is, and this is something I don't want to hear from the Penguins themselves, but I can say it, if the conference stinks, go right ahead and keep on getting better. Make the playoffs. You never know what could happen. My friends, that is not always the case in ice hockey. You will have years where your conference is either super crazy top heavy, meaning there's teams way at the top that you don't have a prayer against, or, and this has been more commonly the case in the East in recent years, you've got about 8 or 9 teams that are really strong and have really good inter-conference records, meaning they will just routinely beat up on the West, so they end up with more wins. That's not this. That's not this. This is a whole lot of gray, which kind of surprises me because I didn't think this was going to be an all-the-way step backward kind of year. For example, say for the Rangers, the way they've nosedived. I also didn't see the Capitals surging as they have. I thought the Blue Jackets were going to be just terrible, and they haven't been. I thought the Red Wings might take a step forward, and they just never do. And I honestly don't think much of the Bruins, even though they're in one of those coveted top 3 spots in the division at the moment. I think they're going to fall back. So there's a lot of reason for legitimate hope, even if it's for, not necessarily a positive thing. When we come back, J1Q. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts.
Abandoned ship, Bob. Sell the team. Are you a Pirates fan who is angry or apathetic about our perennial losing baseball team? Do you feel helpless because you don't know how to make a difference? Well, good news. We have something you can do about it. Join our Sell the Team movement. We're a group of passionate fans voicing our frustration and demanding change through billboard campaigns, press outreach, protests, and involvement at local city government meetings. Go to OurTeamNotHis.com to get involved.
Today's J1Q comes from Mike, and it's pretty cool. He says, DK, I couldn't be more excited. As a lifelong Penguins fan, I was that kid running around with a hockey stick, dreaming of the rink. But growing up in a military family and later serving myself, I was always stationed too far from any ice. And after leaving the military and moving to Denver, life kept me from picking it up until now. This week, everything changes. I'm going to be skating, lacing them up for the very first time, kicking off weeks of practice leading up to 2 huge moments. My wife and I are flying out to Pittsburgh to see a game against the Capitals, long overdue family reunion, and then flying back to Denver to watch the Penguins take on the Avalanche. So my J1Q for the day is, what's the biggest thing the Penguins need to do to be in a playoff spot by the time the Penguins are playing the Avalanche here? Well, dude, now first off, congrats on the ambition. Skating's no picnic at the start. I don't know that it's a picnic for anybody, no matter how advanced they get. And of course, the athletes in the NHL are about as advanced as it gets. Now, you set quite a wide time span there between now and March 4, which is when that game in Denver takes place. And I would say that the number one thing that the Penguins have to do from the existing internal standpoint, and boy, is this going to be a boring answer, but I'm sorry because it's true, they have to maintain, they have to sustain, they have to keep doing these things that they've done for the past 4 games. That's it. It needs to become reflexive. It needs to be identity material. As soon as it isn't, and I mean that could be tonight, well, you'll see. They'll look just like that nonsense we were watching for the better part of October and November. But if you're asking me the biggest single event that can occur between now and then, I mean, dude, we're talking about the NHL trade deadline. We have to be. And I mean the deadline itself more than ever. I don't mean trades approaching it or trades near it. I mean right at the deadline. Because one of the things that happens whenever you have the conference all bunched up the way I was just describing is everyone thinks they're in it, and everyone values every point. And believe it or not, there's going to be teams that make it from the West, too. So they're not going to be as inclined to make trades as maybe they would in another season. So it won't be easy. I don't think you're going to see any sort of great sell-offs. They get threatened occasionally. That just recently happened in Manhattan, but they don't actually occur. So who knows? Maybe I don't mean to keep picking on the Rangers here, but they've been, I think, the biggest disappointment in all of hockey. Yes, even more so than Nashville. And if they decide that they're going to part ways with, I don't know, Chris Kreider, Mika Zibanejad, well, maybe they wouldn't want to deal inside the division, but those are real live names that'll bring real live returns, regardless of how they might be performing this season. So, and then there's salary cap stuff and not wanting to move all your draft picks. I don't want to turn this whole thing into a big long dialogue as to what Kyle Dubas might or might not do. But if he were to execute something that would bring the Penguins a return that fortifies, let's not kid anybody here, that fortifies the defensive core. That's the shortcoming still. And maybe within that, Dubas also brings up a goaltender from Wilkes-Barre. I'd love to see Yoel Blomqvist back, but the Penguins are blessed to have three goaltenders playing well in the minors right now. That would be welcome too. Anyway, good luck, my man. Don't fall flat on your face or something, and thank you for your service. I mean that for real, not going out and skating. I'm talking about your actual military service. That might have come across as sarcastic. Thanks for your service, man. All right, I am going to be covering the game tonight at PPG Paints Arena, and we'll be back with another one of these tomorrow.